Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Coach's Corner. We have a special guest today, SHADIC, because we are going to talk about how Corrin has been rising up in the meta. Obviously, SHADIC is one of the players leading the charge when it comes to Corrin, especially in the United States. So I'm really excited to get into this topic. We've had a Corrin episode before, so kind of talking about, it was back when like Delfina the invitational Delfino Mazda last year, I think Leo was busting out Corrin, right? And we had a discussion about that. Obviously, we brought up SHADIC. SHADIC was an up-and-coming player, and now also getting even higher placements than last year. So really excited to get into this episode. But before we get into the juicy stuff, got to do the quick show. If you guys like the content, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. You guys can also leave comments in the comment section if you guys want to request specific topics that you want us to cover here in Coach's Corner. And of course, the event that is happening for Coach's Corner, or that Coach's Corner is heavily involved with, or I should say Smash University, but Watch the Throne, featuring MKLeo, Tweak, Spargo, like Proto, Akola, Gluttony, and many more. Mia and The Buzz was able to qualify through Super Smash Con, so we're really excited about that. December 8th through 10. Make sure to go on the Start GG if you want to check out more, and you can also follow Watch the Throne on Twitter at WTT Events to keep up to date on all of that stuff. So now that we've got all the shilling out of the way, let's get into the Corrin talk. I know, Ramses, you got a lot to say about Corrin. You used to main Corrin in Smash 4. One thing, before we even get into that, SHADIC, did you play Smash 4?
Yes, I did.
Play Corrin
I did play Corrin. Okay. I've been playing Corrin for that long.
How did you make the transition work? How did you do it? I touched the character and I was like, she's dead. She's dead.
I don't know. I just saw something in her. I don't know what it was, honestly. So in Smash 4, the whole thing was Pin. But moving on to Ultimate, I think because they made the Pin so not as spammable as it was in 4, it kind of opened made ideas for me to think about what she can do without Pin. Now I feel like her aerials are even better than they wanted for. Her combo game is even crazier. I feel like her frame trapping is even better than it wasn't for. Her neutral doesn't revolve around Pin as much as it does. Her recovery is better. It's just, and early Ultimate, all of those things weren't there, but as the buffs came in, it got way better. So
is her recovery better?
Yes. Vertically wise,
okay.
It was buffed, yes. But
for sure.
Drift from Smash 4 is worse.
Yeah.
The drift is worse.
The thing that made the recovery work in Smash 4, you would up B and then you get a burst of drift at the end where she would twirl, and that's just gone. But they buffed the recovery. It was a huge change. The biggest thing that I think is interesting is the way I look at Corrin in Smash 4, she was really a burst range focused character, kind of like Fox, right? He runs up, he could dash attack you at any time. She runs up, she could ping you at any times. How do you look at Corrin in terms of generally what she wants to achieve in neutral in this game?
Her general goal is to hit you with the combo starter aerials forward air, up air, or straight hit back air. But it's all about playing around somewhat the shield minigame, parry minigame. Also the bait and punish. It's kind of a mix of all those things. I think the thing that's the least the far from the truth of what she is, a rushdown character, because she's not really the one starting the situations. She kind of plays dances around you and oh, I'm here, so hit me, but actually I'm gonna hit you, which is a joke. So she's not really the one oh, I'm gonna swing at your shield. If you miss something, you're kind of in a bad spot. You can't just throw out stuff and you're good. But it's just mostly baiting you out and punishing. So.
Yeah, makes sense. And I think especially with her initial dash, she has basically the best initial dash with Sheik in the game in terms of frame data.
Into shield, yeah.
Yeah, her dash shield, but in her overall initial dash is really good.
Oh, yeah.
I think what that allows her to do as well, she doesn't have the greatest mobility. The mobility she has can be extremely precise because of her good initial dash. What do you think in terms of the bait and punish, right? What are you threatening with the movement, and what are you looking to punish with? So you said it's a lot of combo starter aerials, but generally they're related to your landing part of the game. So what is the general threat that you're trying to establish at the start of the game to get them to fall for your baits?
I think I've developed a playstyle that mostly revolves around the other person. So if I know a Fox is gonna run up and try to call out a run up forwarder, a full hop, I'll mostly like see him running at me and like opposition to where even if I'm wrong and I like slingshot or something, like it won't be that bad of a spot and like up air or something like above me. And if you play around like where your opponent wants and stay at a range that like outside of the burst range, like it's mostly like how she does like her neutral game plan.
Makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like any character that kind of favors a lot of air-to-air combat. I feel like Corrin has a lot of solid options. Just nair, like rising nair out of a lot of scenarios. It is a bit risky, but you're just covering yourself with hitboxes, right? And even how it's very impressive how Leo played against Sonics, just Sonics at Wave Dash, and just I feel like the biggest weakness on surface level that when you just look at the character Corrin, most people will say is the lack of mobility, right? Just her left to right isn't as fast. So I feel like when you look at a character like that and then you look at a character like Sonic, you should feel like, oh, okay, well, this character should get destroyed by Sonic, right? Can't really catch Sonic. But because Corrin can be like, oh, well, you're going to do some kind of spin dash into me and just cover herself with hitboxes. And what the reward you get from that, like you're not just chipping Sonic, right? You're putting Sonic in a really bad spot. You're getting a lot of damage. And Corrin just hits really hard too. So if any of these stray hits do connect or you bait an air dodge, you can get crazy punishes and kill Sonic, the character, just extremely early. So even just the lack of mobility, I feel like is something that Corrin doesn't really like. It's still a pretty bad weakness, but I don't know if that's her biggest weakness. Actually, it might just be a surface level thing because we're still learning a lot about the game and the character in general.
Yeah, I would definitely say it's like a service level thing. Because like you said, she can cover herself with hitboxes, and the reward is so good. Once like the worst part is being point blank with someone. When you're point blank with someone, like your frame data like isn't so good because a lot of like her advantage comes from late hitboxes. So if you're right next to someone, you don't really have time to like do a falling forward there. Like they're not gonna really let you do that. But once you like point next to someone, it's like you're gonna go for a grab. Are you gonna like try to parry something they do? Are you just gonna stay in shield? That's mostly when like the better player situation comes in. So generally, you do want to stay in the range where it favors you. And they're going into you.
Yeah, and I know I also feel like when it comes to Corrin, so the way you just explained it, the biggest weakness is going to be just the boxing scenarios, right? So
Yeah.
I'm imagining like first characters that come to mind that are going to have really good boxing situations, but also have great mobility to kind of punish the lack of speed. Those are going to be fantastic characters against Corrin, right? So first thing, you want boxing. Second thing, you want to be able to out mobility her. So, automatically like Fox is going to come to mind is one of the first characters. And even characters like Sheik, where you have great boxing, you can weave in and out. You also have a projectile, right? Even characters like
great
Diddy,
advantage. Yeah.
right? Great advantage. Even characters like Diddy Kong, where you have the range advantage with Banana. You also are a scrappy character. You want to get up close, go for things like down tilts and stuff like that. But all these characters have one thing in common, and they're usually extremely light. So even if Corrin's kind of getting pieced up in general, it feels like she's always going to have some way to come back because of the rage. And up throw isn't as crazy. It was in Smash 4, so you don't have the consistency of the up throw, but it's still up throw still KOs at around like us on these lighter characters, 140, 150, right around that area. And you can always hit, a stray back air, a 2-frame pin, right, that ends up being a tipper, can blow up these really light, nimble characters that have extremely good boxing options, right? But they're gonna probably get destroyed by a 2-frame pin at around 70%, maybe even lower if you
70,
have like
80.
maybe even more or lower if you have the rage, if you're on Town and City or Smashville and stuff like that. So do you feel like, Corrin's bad matchups, which I'd imagine are these quick characters that have extremely good boxing options, do you feel like that archetype is the hardest for Corrin?
That archetype and zoning characters are like ones that she does struggle to get in on, such as Zamus. And this is another one that I don't have as much experience, but from the ones I have, like it's kind of crazy. Me Gunner, those types of characters are really crazy. But there are ways to play around them. The more I play the matchups, I'm like, okay, well, there are parts of it that seem bad, such as when I'm in the air, like trying to land, or like it just in combo hits done like forever. But like once I get my hit, and again, there are also some of them are really light characters. I can just turn around really quickly, like even as Corrin, like if you wouldn't expect it, but like I get one forward air backer, one backer in general, get them off stage. Her edge guarding is like pretty good overall, like because her vertical up B is really good. You can do two backers, get a double jump, maybe another backer. Her neutral B kills really good. Pin. There's always like pretty much something you can do. And just characters that like, for example, Snake, characters that can like disrupt Corrin's general like game plan or like flow. There's like a somewhat flow chart to Corrin, but it's not as simple as, let's say, Game & Watch.
Right.
Let's say I get a fair pin, it's 0. And then they're on the platform, and then I get a platform reset. Snake just pulls grenade, and then here we are, like, I have to respect you. I get hit, you get hit, but you're not as much as disadvantage as you normally would be. And characters like Bayo, like characters that have their like special like I guess abilities to them, like where like they don't face as much, like they don't pay the price as well as other characters do. Corrin can struggle to like to play her game with, you know.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. Tony, did you have something to say?
Yeah, I was gonna say I think the way I like to look at it in those matchups in particular is that essentially when you hit them, instead of it being Corrin's game, it turns into a different kind of mini game where you're usually still in an advantage, like it's better than a 50-50, but it's not the Corrin show, so to speak.
Yeah.
It's not just a matter of I'm gonna up air here every single time and then respond to what you did, and then I'm still gonna get something, and it's just execution.
Yeah, exactly. So like how when I'm playing these matches more often, there are ways to like switch around like what the average like gameplay is. So like for Snake, like again, like with pulling grenade, I can just space around the grenade. I can hit it from certain ranges and it'll blow up, and I don't get hit, and you're still in disadvantage. Bayo, like read the air dodge, like even her, like there are ways to like keep her in disadvantage. Like I've 0 to 90 like Lima like multiple times, and he's like literally so good against like me, like and Corrin in general, because we play like a lot of times, and it's just if you like play it more, there you can find ways to play around these characters that can disrupt your general flow.
So I have a question. So the way I look at the meta is that these characters that have less like dominant neutrals, like Corrin, right? Like you said, she kind of plays around the opponent. I feel like they've kind of improved over time as people have gotten better at abusing just like things that are strong in the engine. What do you identify as the main like contributing factors to Corrin succeeding more nowadays? Because I know she got her buffs, but even after her buffs, it was a while before we really saw that Corrin succeed. And now there's Neo. Leo was doing really well for a while. What do you think is like the main factor that kind of like changed Corrin's meta game for the better?
I think so. A lot of what got buffed was like her damage output, and her like I think knockback might have been increased as well. Yeah, back air got like an back air definitely got a knockback increase. So a bunch of her well, besides the recovery, that recovery was like the main thing. Her advantages got more explored in terms of combos and like how to keep other players in disadvantage. Also how to kill better, because it's not it wasn't the easiest thing to kill Corrin, like especially pre buffs. Like back air wasn't as good as it was. The kick wasn't as strong as it was now. It was even worse. And can you imagine, like I'm kicking people at like 130 in the corner and they're not even dying? Like, what is that?
It's not great.
It's not great, please. But he ended up changing it, so we're cool. But yeah, like most of her strengths were like improved as time went on Ultimate, and I think people just put more time into her, and like Neo, like I like just played her for so long, and we kind of like found ways to make the most of what she could do, basically.
Would you call Corrin a nuanced character?
What
You
does
don't
that
have to
mean
compare to
exactly?
Peach. You don't have to compare to Peach. No, I mean, like, do you think so? For a character like Cloud, the character is pretty like he enters generically strong situations and plays them in generally similar ways. Would you say Corrin? Would you say it's the same for Corrin, or do you think there's like a lot of like small differences in situations that lead to like these huge consequences?
I guess I would say there are small differences. It's not like I said, like the flowchart isn't the same for every character. There are ways to play neutral against one character and then neutral against a different character. How to pressure someone in the corner. Like most characters, I think playing around people's burst options is mostly what Corrin likes to do. But there are different ways to go about it. But mostly it kind of involves. Okay, so there are matchups that let you jump, and there are matchups that don't let you do that.
Right.
It's a good way to
There are like
categorize.
yeah, that's kind of like what it's come down to, honestly, because people like Palu, like you jump, you get near, like it's kind of in basic terms, that's kind of what happens. So you have to be smarter than like just, oh, I can jump here and I'm cool, I get to do whatever I want, but that's not really the case. You kind of have to think a little harder about those situations. But in the end, like the goal is the same, but to reach it, it's kind of you have to like play around the characters differently.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like for the most part, what makes Corrin strong is just her win condition feels universal, and then when it's not universal, I feel like that's when you get into the more niche matchups, right? Like when you're explaining Snake, all of a sudden you can't frame trap Snake, you can't platform tech chase Snake. I personally think platform tech chasing is the future of this game because platform tech chasing is essentially tech chasing, but they have less options. It's like tech chasing by the edge of the stage. And when you can create that scenario, which I think Corrin, Nair, and a bunch of her
She
other
does it
tools,
so well. Like,
right? And you get so much off of it. There's extensions. There's even more frame traps that can lead into you losing stocks at very early sense. I think another thing that makes Corrin very consistent, alongside of a lot of other top tiers, is having a very a juggle game that has a very wide range. So your up air is very wide and the reward is very high. And also, there's up air and nair. Nair is not as wide. The hitbox is not as big as up air, but the reward is even better because it goes into up air, right? So you have this juggle game that is volatile. Like you will take so much damage if you challenge Corrin. Like if you burn your double jump and jump to center and you're like, I'm going to try and play this mini game against Corrin, you could take 100 damage. You could lose your stock.
like at
right.
all.
Right.
Yeah.
So that inherently is going to drive characters to go to the ledge. Now, Corrin also has a extremely fucked up two frame, like one of the stronger two frames in the game that if you miss, you still get your ledge trap. So it's not like a wolf down smash where it's like, if I miss, I lose out on ledge trap. I could miss the reversal, right?
The pin into like guaranteed ledge trap is kind of iffy. Now you can cancel it and they're kind of still like in a bad spot, but some people, if they just normal get up, like then at that point, like okay, they're probably normal get up to shield, and then okay, do I go for a grab? Do I just stay back? Like it doesn't become so free because if I pin, I can punch normal get up, but I had to risk kicking off, and it's all about that. But yeah, I see what you're saying. Like the reward for hitting the pin is like there anyway. So.
But you wouldn't say that you can always pin, but always get like a clean ledge trap in terms of like sheer frame advantage.
Yeah, because mostly her ledge trapping, like the way I developed it is like falling nair on normal get up, catching roll, grab, or pin, catching jump with like just another aerial, or shielding the get up attack. Like mostly that, I'm playing like that. But if you pin and you miss and you let them get up, that's not really like gonna work because then you're basically in the middle of the stage but at the ledge, and they can kind of do what they want, but even though they're in the corner, but you're not like, okay, you're at the ledge, like pick something, they're already on the stage,
right. And then even if you like pin then cancel, if they're normal get upping while you're canceling, you would rather have created distance or like jumped or something like that preemptively, right? Because now
you put yourself so close to them,
right? And then that's like a really bad situation for Corrin for the most part, right?
For the most part, yes.
Okay, so when you're a Corrin player and you go for the pin, if you miss, you're giving up a like pristine ledge trap. Like
it definitely depends like how bad you miss it. Because let's say you pinned, but like so early, and like you drop it, and like they're still barely coming up, like then you have time, like you're good. But if you do it like so late and you cancel it so late, then you're not as good as a situation you could have been. You could even jump from the pin, and like you can land with nair, and it will actually cover normal get up. But there's also adaptation to that. Like they can jump to hit you. There's a bunch of adaptation like you can have to like think about once you're in that spot. But yeah, the risk reward for going for pin is definitely like in her favor, which is why you'll see a bunch of Corrin players just go for either way. So yeah.
So my question then is, how do you generally decide when you are having to pick between going for pin setups, going for 2 frames into edge guards, or if you're just going for your safer ledge trap?
It's
How do you decide
definitely
which to go for?
yeah. It's character dependent and percent dependent. If they're like a low percent, I'll probably just stick to the ledge trap. If they're at higher and their character is easily 2 frames, I'll probably go for the 2 frame. And it also depends how far they are. So if they're like really far, then it's probably best to just go for the edge guard because you can back air, you get pushed back towards the stage. It's pretty like the way she drifts toward you and you recover. It's kind of like linear, if you know what I mean. So if they're like at higher percents, either pin or like edge guard, and if you miss, then you try to like get back to stage as soon as possible and let's try from there. Yeah.
The way I like to picture Corrin's recovery is that it's actually one of the better recoveries in the game in a certain space, just because of the combination of the invulnerability plus the disjoint on the up B. Like there's usually vulnerability before and after, but if you know what your opponent's going to do, you can pretty much always time the up B so that it just gets you to the ledge. And even if they try and 2-frame you, you can usually mix up your recovery because it's so disjointed and has so much range. Like I think that it's actually one of the best tools Corrin has against like super top level players. Is that they try and punish that up B and interact with it, and they just get counter hit and lose their whole edge trap.
That's definitely what happens in like earlier stages of like when I play with a top player. Like they're like, oh, I can't do that, huh? Because of the hitbox, because of the vulnerability, because of the range, and yeah, because of the up B hits through ledge. I would say like the thing that top players are really good at making the most of is definitely the ledge trap game. Corrin, like her one like special or two like different options, but like not so different, is like jump from ledge pin or drop ledge double jump and then do an aerial or drop like jump like air dodge or just land. Like it's either you do those or you pick a normal option, and then that's not really the best thing. But yeah, that's probably the most I think they abuse like against Corrin. Like when you have her at ledge, like you have her at ledge. Like it's probably gonna be a while until she gets off, unless the player is so good and you just get off.
Well, that's part of what's so great about Pin too, is just that some people get so scared of Pin that they'll start shielding preemptively and they'll cut themselves off. And so you can usually like set yourself up to things like ledge roll where they'll hit you, but at least you get off the ledge.
Yes.
So
Is Pin still a low priority? Does it still get clanked by aerials?
It does. It does.
Okay. That sucks. Yeah, especially for getting off the
Yeah,
ledge.
her moves overall do have low priority. It's funny because the one that I think has like the best is the kick. It's like a really huge hitbox and it beats out like ridiculous things. Like that move like for some reason has really good priority and it's really good because it also kills. So I'll take it. But yeah, pin and like her smash attacks don't really have the best priority. And neutral B just gets obliterated by everything. Like the damage charge shot, charge shot, like tiny against the full charge neutral B, like we just clank and then it's gone. Like, but her projectile, like for starters, like why are you getting hit by that? Like if you're like across the stage, like it's your fault for getting hit by that. So it's whatever. Like there's other ways to play around matchups like Samus and the meat gunner, like I said. So it's just how it is.
You mostly get people with the neutral B because they're mashing out a stun because they think they're like people love mashing out a hit stun just to get out of trouble.
I used to be one of those. And I played Luis. He was really good at calling it out with either bear or explosive flame. That's so funny because like that's one of the habits that I know very well that I did have, and he's the player that like got rid of that so fast. So fast. I always like to think back to that moment. That's funny that you mentioned that. But yeah, he was so good at calling it out, and I like kind of deleted it like as fast as I could. So
he has that effect on people.
He's a great guy.
So thinking about current meta, I feel like right now there's a lot of focus on like kind of denying center and juggles, which Corrin is really good at, and then transitioning like all states of advantage to a corner pressure, right? So whether it's like a juggle, you can lead them to the corner. If it's a ledge trap, even if you don't get a ledge trap, you can still corner pressure them, right? Like you focus on covering the reversal. If they normal get up, you lead into corner pressure, and obviously Corrin is really good at doing this stuff. Kind of seeing you and Neo grow to play this style very well is very cool to me. What I'm kind of curious about now is like where do you see the most room of improvement for Corrin's meta game right now? And I don't mean in terms of like specific things like, oh, I should be doing this frame trap. I more so mean like strategy wise, like what do you think are big or even just like noteworthy improvements that you're looking at right now?
I think the biggest room for improvement for me in particular is optimizing matchups. Like right now, I've been doing like a lot of research against like Snake and Terry and other characters that I just have like such little experience against. And there are like tricks that Corrin has that most other characters don't to play around like okay, I guess I'm gonna say this, but like if Terry power dunks, like you know how Terry like power dunks and like auto cancel, he shouldn't really be able to do that like a neutral because you can just counter and it kind of explodes him. He
Right.
sauced the riddle set. I didn't do it just because I'm like so inexperienced in it, and like whenever the situation will happen, I wouldn't recognize fast enough. So it never like came to be, I guess. But things like that, like optimizing these situations matchup wise, and just like kind of like limiting how much percent you take in like a ledge, like I said, or like in general, where you have to kind of have to be the better player. Is what I think like most Corns like need to work on. Because as a Corn, you mostly focus on your strengths, but once you play a good player, you know they kind of like show you like, oh, you're not always like an advantage. So that's basically like, what she needs to work on for the future.
Yeah, especially
It
against some of
sounds
these
like
or other characters that mitigate your strength,
Yeah.
like Snake and stuff like that, right? Like when you hit those kind of roadblocks, I can imagine it can be really difficult. But sorry, go on, Ramses.
I was saying, it sounds like you feel like Corrin is the type of character that just like really plays around the opponent all the time.
Yes.
I feel like in that regard, Neo is a little bit more assertive, right? In terms of just like doing what Corrin thinks is strong. What do
I
you
can
think
see
about
what you
that?
mean. Yeah, because I'll watch this gameplay and like he's just like and like not as extreme as fishing, but
No,
like
he's looking for it.
he's pushing he's looking for it. Like all right, he's looking for it. But
The
like
fishing
he
poles are
does
out for
it.
sure.
He, he definitely like he wants you to get hit, and he definitely like I feel like he has this mindset to where if he doesn't hit it, it's like okay, like what's gonna happen to me, huh? What are you gonna do? Like to where I'm more like okay, if I miss this, then I think about the worst thing that could happen. So it kind of like I guess influences me to play safer, which in some situations can be better, but there's also times to go in. So it's just like mixing up when to do these things or not. But yeah, he's definitely like, for example, he likes to like he'll do like rising forwarder in the air, double jump in place, and like try to catch your air dodge or pin. That's not like really something like I would do, but like he's like okay, well if I get it, it'll kill. So I can definitely see like that kind of perspective. But I guess I'm more like I want the guaranteed stuff, and then from there, like once they're in the air, like I play like that. I try to play really optimal. Like I kind of have a standard for myself, like for when I play. Most of the times I think I'm playing kind of mid, cause like I know like what I can do essentially. Um, so when I'm not like at that level, I'm trying to like bro. But uh, but yeah, back to what you're saying, how like he's more assertive. Like yeah, I could definitely see that. And there are times for that, but yeah.
I just
What would you say
oh,
is
go
the
ahead.
difference between when you're playing mid and how you should be playing?
When I'm playing mid, I do things repetitively. So I think the thing that's clearest to me when I'm playing mid is I'm pinning a lot in neutral. I'm trying to whip punish with pin a lot, and there's like it puts you in not the best spot, especially do it over and over and over. Like I do sometimes. Like I see someone land with an aerial and it's not punishable pin, and I pin anyways, and then I put myself in a bad spot, or I'm dropping combos, or my movement isn't clean, or I'm not hitting the kill confirms, like, or I'm not typing 2 frames. Like there's just like a list. Like I know like these things should be happening, and then it doesn't happen, and I'm like, oh my god, that could have been so much better. But
Do
yeah,
you
I'm working with it. Yeah.
do you think that's an issue of like confidence or focus? Like where do you think
Um.
that is?
I think it lies. I
Because what it sounds like to
suppose.
me, just giving my 2 cents, it sounds like in tournament you're so focused on playing around the opponent that it's hard to be like super clean about what you're doing. You know what I mean? Like it
Totally.
requires a little bit of like multitasking in terms of, you know, like managing exactly what you're doing to be exact with that like pin with punish. And it's hard to do if you're like busy gathering information. And it sounds like for someone like Neo, who's like a little bit more focused on like what do I want, it is a little bit easier to find like clean hits like that because he's not really that focused on like exactly what the opponent's doing and more so on kind of like getting what he wants. See what I mean?
Yeah, and I guess it would. I'm not sure like what the reason is. If I knew, like I think I would fix it. But back to like the how to get like what Corrin wants and not play so much around like the other person. I think I do find ways to do it without being so committal. Like, oh, dash back. If they're dashing forward like towards you, don't like dash back all the time. Like I try to like limit that. I do like find ways to get the most of what I want, but I don't. I feel like I don't make it so obvious, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think like it's definitely not the best thing to play around the opponent like all the time. It's just like definitely like what she likes to do generally, and aside from just getting her straight hits like and combo starters. So
That's fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think for me at least, it makes sense for Neo to kind of lean more towards that playstyle because his return on his combo game is so crazy, right? Like it's very clear that he labs out like a bunch of on hit scenarios and even like these frame trap scenarios where he'll like drift a certain way after doing an aerial or drift in place after a certain aerial to position for like, oh, if neutral air dodge, I get tipper pin, they die at 80 or something like that, right? So the offense feels a little bit more studied, so it kind of makes sense to be like, oh, okay, since I have so much confidence in my offense, like if I just go for the wild swing and you get your shit and I get my shit half the time, like I'm gonna win because my return is so high, right? And to me, it's interesting because the best US Corrin feels like they're playing the Japanese style of the game in terms of just like, well, right, like you're going for like the consistency flow chart, right? Like you want to take risks and you want to abuse your character's offense, but you want to do it in a very safe and consistent manner, and you're trying to like build towards this perfect flow chart, which is like usually impossible, but I mean that's Smash in general, right? We're all trying to build towards this perfect flow chart that you can create that like makes it so you get these consistent results, and then you tweak it from there, and then you know eventually you can win all the time no matter what, like something like Leo's run or like Leo's dominance, right? For you know how many years, like a lot, 5 or 6 or however, right? So something like that, right? All Smash players are kind of building towards that consistency and how you want to build it. It can be on the safer side. You can like front load it onto your offense and stuff like that. So I think it's interesting how it almost feels like the two best Corrins from like Japan and US, they are swapped in terms of play styles from their representative region, right? So I think that's really interesting. But at least in the mirror, right? You pieced up Neo 5-0, but Neo did get the bracket run over you, obviously, almost even getting the set for Sokola. But we even saw Neo, and I think we've talked about this forward smash, and I actually want to know your opinion on that forward smash, SHADIC. When I was commentating so we're commentating the set, and I didn't even want to say anything, but Haz and Bam put their head down. That's how disappointed they were in that forward smash. Like the forward smash happened, and then I looked over to my left, Bam and Haz just put their head onto the table and like just didn't say anything, and I was like, fuck, I really have to like be the one commentating like at this final moment. And I even like stuttered a couple times because it was like, to me it was so mind-blowing that you bet it on the forward smash. But in that specific scenario, the forward smash did cover a lot of options, and Akola did condition for that situation, right? Like he didn't do the cross-up roll. He like ran up, rolled back, ran up, rolled back. I can't recall like the exact scenarios, but I know he dashed up, rolled back at least once. I don't know the other sequences what Akola did, and then he dashed up, shielded, and then rolled in, and then got the W, right? So, but like, oh man, like I said, I don't think the forward smash was bad, and it covered multiple options, just not the roll in. But in my opinion, I feel like if you were in that situation and you worked so hard to drain the resources, right, off of Steve, so Steve does not have this burst option being minecart, and he's slow. So now Steve has to go into like, my burst option is cross-up roll, right? Cross-up roll or dash attack, that's it. So like now you're just a regular Smash character that can't build fucking walls and whatever bullshit, right? So he's just a regular Smash character, and I feel like Corrin thrives in that situation so much by just playing Corrin. Like, you back air, you falling up air, and like you can win the straight hit game. But Neo, being the aggressive nature, tried to set up this specific situation where the all-in option covers like 80 or 90% of Akola's option and tried to close out the game there. And I don't think it was a bad play. It was an aggressive play. It was a very well thought out aggressive play, but it was aggressive nonetheless. But like, what are your thoughts on that situation, SHADIC?
Okay, so it's hard to say because I wasn't in that spot. I didn't have all that pressure. I didn't have it in my head. Okay, I can win right here, right now. But if I was in that spot and I had already hit that many F smashes, and we were in that situation, last stock, last hit, and I've been in that situation before, like against other people, and I know how it ends. Like either way, like, if I get it or not, I think I probably wouldn't have done it. Also, considering like you said, he didn't have resources. He already done it so many times. Like that was definitely one of his main kill moves, like kill options. I think I probably wouldn't have done it and try to play around like the threat of it mostly. And also the option to me in general is it's so hit or miss. Like as you can see there. So and I've used it, like I've learned about it for years. So I've always thought about like the risk and like the reward, and it's just definitely not in that spot. I don't think it was worth to go for it. Again, I don't think I would have done it. I probably would have just like ran up or shielded or something, looked at what he was doing, because I mean I think they were like at 120 or something around that range. So grab wasn't really gonna do anything. So shielding, probably what I would have done, and gone from there. So I understand why he did it, because obviously like, we all know why he did it. Like it covered roll away, covered sitting in place, like probably jumping. I think he was shielding. Yeah, he was shielding, so jumping, staying shield. Like it's definitely understandable, but I think, yeah, personally I just wouldn't have. But I definitely see where he's coming from. Like
Might have shield poked too, maybe, right? Because the shield was getting a little lower.
It can shield break from full shield. It shield breaks if you get the full charge. So it's really crazy, like being put in that spot. But I think considering all the factors, and like how crazy of a like win like it would have been, like I wouldn't have been it. I would probably wouldn't done that, because again it's hard to say, because maybe my mom would have taken over, like, oh, I can win right now, I can do it, like. But yeah, it's just a really tough spot to be in, but I probably wouldn't have done it.
It's a nerve-wracking situation for sure, and I think Neo's, I mean, we talked about his playstyle in general, right? It's a little bit more aggressive, and like aggressive doesn't mean just blindlessly making swings. Like that was a very calculated forward smash. It was a very, of all the aggressive plays Neo set up, that was a really, really good one. Akola just had, pristine conditioning and understanding of the situation, and just, went like the time he went for the cross-up roll was, that was the exact time that he knew when Neo wanted to commit offensively, right? But again, I think that's just the general nature of Neo. He kind of like set up the scenario where an aggressive option could cover like 80-90% of all of Akola's options. So, and I mean, even getting into that situation in the first place is like really fucking hard, right? Like getting Akola to game 5, last stock, last hit. Like I think he was the only player to do it that tournament, right? Unless was the Buzz able to get? I don't think the Buzz was able to get Akola game 5, last stock, last hit. So I mean, was the player that brought Akola to like the closest to defeat. So I mean, no matter what, shout out to Neo, like just incredible run.
Let's go Neo.
Yeah, really good stuff.
Go Corrin in general.
Yeah.
Let's go.
So how do
Can
you?
I,
go ahead, Ramses.
I actually have a question about forward smash, because something that you talked about, SHADIC, is that like there are matches where you cannot jump, right? Like grounded matchup and jumping matchups. And I think something that Corrin has kind of struggled with historically is ground game, because her ground game was kind of carried by Pin in Smash 4, right? And like her down tilts like minus 18 or some shit. It's like, it's not safe, let's put it that way. Her grabs are not that rewarding, especially because she doesn't have a kill move anymore. Her ground game can be a struggle, and it feels like Neo was really honing in on using forward smash to mitigate some of that. How do you feel about the role of forward smash as a complement to Corrin's ground game?
I think it helps out a lot.
I don't see you use it at all.
The thing, so that's a good point, because I definitely know the counterplay to it. If you watch the first fight with me and him, I did it. I'm sure y'all know it's just shield SDI. Like I'm not gonna gatekeep. Like it's just shield SDI away, do the tap, roll away, you're good. Like,
And even if like for the people at home, even if you're like if you don't know how to shield SDI, if you're like at 100, you can just like after you just shield with one of the saw blades, you can just drop it and try to SDI the saw blade. She has to release pretty early, and the like weak hit of the forward smash kills at like 130, 140.
it
something like that.
depends. If it depends on the DI, because if they are
Yeah.
SDI to get out of it, and they don't react to them releasing it, and they still get hit, they're probably gonna DI bad and die even earlier.
True.
Which is what I think did happen on the FD game, or it was one of the games where the S smash like killed like earlier than I expected from like across the stage. I'm like, I don't think that should have killed,
That
but
should
we
not
take
kill,
those.
yeah.
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 Like so. Yeah, the way I've thought about S smash and like people always tell me, like, oh, Chad, that's like so broken. Like, why don't you do it? And I'm just like, oh, well, actually, it's like this and like. So the way my brain thinks of risk and reward, it definitely like really thinks about the risk. So I always like try to like not use it. But I think in recent times I've reconsidered like the benefits and like how the other players usually thinking. Like, are they really considering it? Are they really trying to play around it? Is it just good to just go for it? Like, so it's definitely still a good option, and you'll probably see like most Corrins going for it in the future. So.
Seems like
Everybody
knowledge
sucks
check.
until proven
It's
otherwise.
definitely one of the knowledge checks. Corrin doesn't even have like that many knowledge checks, like I would say, and that's one of them. So if you don't know about that, then you probably die to it.
I agree with Tony. They don't know until they prove that they know. You know?
Yeah.
I feel like you could mix it in terms of like a one-time use, because like at least like you know the players, like you're getting deep enough into bracket where you're starting to like, okay, like I have, you know, 1 or 2 sets against like Tweak, 1 or 2 sets against like Light, right? Like you're starting to get a feel for, okay, like this player likes to play this against me, or like this style against me, right? And you can also just keep mental notes of like, all right, well, this person has no fucking clue how to shield SDI apparently, right? And even just kind of like throwing that one-time use, maybe like game 1 or 2, just to see if they actually know how to shield SDI and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But like I feel like in your brain you're like, oh well, this is like a top player.
It
should
shouldn't
know.
work.
Right.
It's I wouldn't say I really think about it that way. Like it's a top player, like they know. But I would say going back to the situation with Neo and Akala, because he had already done it so many times. Like you said, oh maybe you can throw it out 1 time or 2 times, but he had already done like a couple of times. So that even like would even motivate me less to do it there, and just motivates me less in general. But if I know that they don't know, then I'm most likely go for it. But it's either like just doing that, grabbing, or like just playing like regular neutral. But it's a good option. Overall, I would say it's a good option, unless they know the kind of play, but yeah.
So I think that one of the aspects of forward smash that really translates into how Corrin expresses her player. So I think both you and say Leo both like to attack in with a safe aerial and then shield yourself so that they'll mash something out of their shield, like leapfrogging or whatnot. And then you can punish whatever they do out of their shield, out of your shield, because you essentially shield off. Whereas I believe Neo is generally looking at just getting enough shield damage so that he can get the forward smash to have a guaranteed shield stab on the charge. And I think that's generally what he's looking for on those. And that's the main difference, is he essentially treats it like a grab that works and beats spot dodge under the circumstance that shield has taken X amount of damage, which pretty much any Corrin aerial should do enough damage that's going to be a true statement. The one of the other things that I think separates the two playstyles on an Axis is that the preference for rising or higher area for Neo, whereas you prefer the landing falling aerials because they're safer. And he'll use a lot of things like full hop and double jump fairs just so that he can get the double hit if it connects.
Yeah, I can see what you mean. I think I've explored like most options. So yeah, generally I am kind of like landing based. But if I know like someone's gonna put themselves in the air, I will do a rising option. It just depends like how I think they're gonna approach the neutral game, or like what I think will work best in situations. Like I don't think it's so simple like one player does this, one player does that. I think it's mostly like, okay, like they know their options, they'll mix it up, they'll play this way if it's the better option, you know.
Preferences
So.
probably, right? Like you
Yeah.
might, you like I think Tony's mainly saying like you will lean more towards falling aerials,
Yeah.
whereas like Neo kind of leans more towards rising aerials.
Mhm.
So I mean,
Yeah.
is there? Oh, go ahead, Tony.
I will also specifically say, SHADIC, that I think that's something that you have adjusted to as a player. I remember a year or so ago, anytime somebody would ask me for advice against you, I would say in particular, if you just shield in his general vicinity, he's going to nair out a shield or something, and then you can just whiff punish that. And you just catch him on his landing. He'll do it over and over. And then you started changing.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. That's definitely one of the options that I've leaned not towards over time because the obvious punish. And even Neo, I think I played him, and afterwards, or he after like the day later, he was like, "Oh, you punished the Neo out of shield really well," and so did like other players. So I think I'm gonna stop doing that like so much. And I'm like, yeah, definitely.
The cursed
And part of
option.
that's from your training area, your stomping grounds, because you don't just have any kind of competition over there. You've got
Yeah. Definitely
Try by
not the
fire.
random. Yeah. Got a hold of Mutes and Lima, and
Mhm.
they're really smart. And I think the way they think about the game has really like influenced me. Just like the way to think about interactions and just like neutral. And it's really like playing them is really good. Like the chances I do, let's say one thing straight. I live in the bottom of Texas. Mutes lives in San Antonio, which is about 4 to 5 hours. And
Wow.
then Lima, when unfortunately Lima did move, Lima lives 8 to 9 hours away from me. So the chances that I do get are really like I guess I treasure them. Like I don't know that for like words. Like I learn so much whenever I do play them, and it's just really crazy. Like the competition in Texas is really good. So yeah, my experience isn't just anyone like Mutes. They're both really just smart in general. Like so even just playing them, like it definitely warms me up for going to a super major. Like oh like this isn't my first time playing a top player. Like they're so good. So yeah.
They both second Corrin as well, don't they?
They have like a wannabe like I can do it too, SHADIC. Like it's not that hard. I'll let it
But
be
you're
known.
Peach though. You're Peach.
Yes, I was gonna say.
Exactly.
Let it be known. The last time I played a best of five with Mute in the reverse mains, I did beat it. So with my Peach, so
Let's
I
get
put that away quick. Once you had to think about like, oh, I can't do the normal corner stuff like I was saying, you had to like play around the other player like I was saying, like it gets a little difficult once the other player knows like what Corrin wants. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely not as simple. So what
Mhm.
would you say that Corrin has the best up air in the game?
It's
has
up
to be
there.
Game & Watch.
It's
It's
very
up
good.
there. Game and Watch is so good and so
Oh,
obnoxious.
Oh,
Yeah.
dude, I have a comparison. Who do you think has a better up air, Sora or Corrin?
Corrin. It's
Not counting the floatiness on Sora, right? So like, if you could trade Corrin's up air for Sora's up air, would you do it?
No, I wouldn't.
That's crazy.
I
I think
think
Sora up air is crazy.
really.
It has better startup. Is that the main thing that Sora has over Corrin? Like it's faster, right?
It has like a hitbox in front of him that's not attached to a sword that just like stays there. I don't know why it just stays there. And it's
I
strong as
haven't
fuck. It's
like
comparable. Like I'm trolling,
yeah.
but
But Corrin has more
I
range, right? Than Sora's.
horizontally for sure. Horizontally for sure.
I think the craziest thing that caught me off guard against Sora is that they do it while doing a double jump. It like rises so much as they rise. So like if they're under the ledge and they try to like double jump from so below and like the up air, like it'll hit you. I think it's kind of tricky, but Corrin's up air kind of does a lot. It frame traps, it combos, it kills. I think it doesn't kill as good as people think. It's really easy to DI mix up because it's so fast and you have to look at what side you're on. But it kind of does all those things. And Sora, like, I guess it kills. I don't know how well it combos. It's like the combo finisher, I suppose. And then frame traps, like, it's definitely not like Corrin. So I would just say Corrin is better. But Game and Watch, it doesn't kill. It puts you in a horrible spot. It does so much damage to you. It does combo. Game and Watch, combine that with Game and Watch's other tools in advantage, it's ridiculous. But I guess if you think about it just on its own, I guess Corrin, because if you were to just do it on its own, like, because the thing about Game & Watch, like again, like you have the Nair, you have the other aerials, but if you just give Corrin up air, you could use it in neutral. Oh, I didn't mention that. Like in neutral, the shield it's -5 on shield. And if you hit it, you get like up air, up air. The combos with up air are really like there are options. You could do like up air, delayed up air, IEJ up air, do a falling up air or an air, and then do another area. It's really crazy. And then you can just do like simpler, and then they're still in a bad spot. So I would say overall, like if you just think about those moves by themselves, Corrin's is probably better.
It's pretty close. I feel like Game
Yeah,
Watch,
it's definitely really
because
close.
Game & Watch up air also combos into itself, right? So you hit that
Yes,
check mark.
yes.
Game & Watch up air is like ultra fucked up for what is it? Platform pressure, where
Yes.
if their shield is even just hit a little bit, like Game Watch is guaranteed shield poke, sequences where they do falling up air into an air or whatever they want, right? Like the idea of just Game & Watch falling up air doing infinite damage and you just can't contest Game & Watch while you're above.
It
Watch
somewhat
is,
like
insane.
forces you to land somewhere that's not the center. Like it does that so well. But again with Corrin, like you can go up there, swing, and then force them to air dodge or force them to pick something, and then you go from there. And she's so good at that. Like she's just so like that's her strength. Like that's the main thing. Like
I
keeping
think the
someone in the
crazy
air.
part is if you get the air dodge read and you get like either a pin or a neutral B or even a back air, they just explode. And if it's the fact that it's just on the back air, like that is crazy. Like how many times do we see Corrin like just air dodge read back air, someone dies at like 70, 80? It's
She got
really
that,
did a
like,
lot. That
crazy.
buff really did a lot.
Yeah.
So you blow up other Corrins when you play them pretty consistently. So I think my question there is, what do you recommend to the people listening to blow up Corrin themselves?
I'm sorry, but I don't think I can share the information. No, I'm just kidding. I would say, okay. I'm trying to think about like what I did to Neo. Like the game plan was so like, I know you want this aerial. I know when you pin, like I know what you're gonna do afterwards. Like the drop stuff, like the tech chase stuff. That stuff like it's kind of like it's definitely a matchup check, and obviously play the character. So, you basically have to play around her aerials, and you can do with parry. You can whiff punish if you're one of those characters, or you can play outside of her range if you're one of those characters. It just depends like who you are. Like I keep bringing up Bayo, but bringing up Bayo is so like crazy. She'll stay outside your range, and she still like has access to ABK. She still like can just parry, get a down tilt or something. I don't know. Like it's just really crazy. Like how the options that characters have against Corrin, especially in the neutral. Keep Corrin disadvantage as long as you can. In like at ledge, like I said, if your character is really crazy at edge guarding, like Corrin's recovery is great, but there are holes. Like Pikachu, Bayo, like just characters like they're just so good. Like it's crazy that I say that because those characters are the edge guard characters. So maybe if you're not those, then it's not like as open to you. But there's definitely like if you can like take advantage of those aspects of the game as much as you can, like that's what you got to do. Yeah.
All right, cool. And
So-
then, what's up, Tom?
I was gonna say, as an extension of that, I know Charles mentioned earlier, like one of the things that Corrin does very well against, like say Sonic, is kind of using undershoot aerials, especially on the platforms, just because it's so difficult to punish. But one of the layers of counterplay that characters like Sonic, Fox, et cetera, have to that kind of play is that once you get there, what are you going to do after you land on that platform? Because then Sonic has you pinned down, so if Sonic can shield pressure you, or God forbid, if it is safe to land with a Corrin aerial, but it's safe because the window to punish it is so small.
Mhm.
But if you hit a skill threshold where they can time it enough and they can actually dash attack, or they can ABK it or whatnot, then all of a sudden that looks way worse when you're when you're getting bursted every time you whiff something. Not
So
fun.
to like I guess counterplay like that aspect of like them perfectly with punishing your moves, which I play players like that, like Mutis. These players I keep bringing them up, but like it's just like crazy, like the way like they do these things. Like Mutis is very much known for how he moves around, how he avoids hitboxes, how he punishes them. once you get to that level, you kind of need to know when they're gonna go in, and that's when you choose, and you know when to go in, and you know like your position. You need to be very aware, like where you are, and decide is this gonna hit. If it is gonna hit, do it. If it's not, kind of just like empty hop or like just like look at them, and then like play around, play like that. So some people won't let you just fall with an area, like you said. You get punished for it. Or you can also engage with them as a mix up, like even like trying to grab or like just kind of jumping in their face. Some people just like let you jump in their face, but if you're kind of decent, you just do an option. But it's once you're at that level, that's definitely the struggle. Like you need to basically to outplay them. Because once people don't let Corrin like play her game again, we're at this part. It just gets hard from there. But they're like once like she does get the hit and you lose, she just keeps going like advantage wise. So yeah, it's just all about getting like out of like part one or like of that phase of the game. So
All right, so I got one final question for myself. How essential do you think footstool dare out of shield is to Corrin going forward into the meta?
it's very essential. I was doing it a lot. I've been doing a lot very like recently. Like I practiced it so much, even against specific like options on Shield. I have the training mod pack, so I even do like lab a bunch of stuff like combos, certain situations. Not even just combos. Like there was an update, input recording, so you can test even more stuff like neutral wise or like shield pressure. It's really crazy what you can do with it. So yeah, so if you like, I practice like post out shield so much that it come to a point where like you just have to like the other person can't just hit your shield for free anymore, and that's something that Corrin struggles with so much. Her outer shield options aren't the best. She has Nair and Nair, so having that option if they space it so bad is great because it forces them to space better, and they're not on you as much as they could be. So it's definitely really relevant, and most Corins should like look into like getting even better at it because it's pretty huge.
Yeah, and you have the best run-up shield in the game too. So I feel like that just coincides with one of Corrin's strength being her dash-up shield being, tied for the best in the game. So yeah.
And that's also like her run up shield is also another way I like to go about neutral. It can let her play a very parry based neutral. So like you can like just parry something, and her down tilt is frame 5. I guess that's not very common because I would just like parry like a cloud backer and I down tilt it, and they spaced it like really well, and it like they do it very close to the ground, and I still punish it because how parry works. So it opens up like really a lot of like these situations that you can play around with parry, or you can just play around in the air, and she definitely has options. So her dash up shield is really useful in that aspect.
Any last questions, Ramses?
I would like to know how much of your time do you spend on like various types of practice? So like VOD reviewing, Wi-Fi, offline, thinking about the game. What do you
Okay.
think makes up your practice?
I think so. Mostly recently, well, not even recently, like kind of like all the time. I think about the game a lot, and because I don't have the chances to play with such good players all the time. I kind of do have to think about the game a lot, just so I don't forget like the things I learned. Mostly, even if I write it down or like something like that, like I don't really have it in my head as well as I did as when I learned it or something like that. So I'm mostly thinking about these situations over and over. And I'm like, oh, okay, so I gotta do this here, and I gotta stop doing this. So it's also kind of bad. 'Cause I'm giving myself instructions, but it just happens. Cause I do think about it a lot. I play the game. I definitely go in training mode like at least once every day, like at least, and then it's
Okay.
probably like for like I don't know 30 minutes. It's not like I don't have like a set routine of what I practice because I practice things so much like in general in the past that I've gotten like so good at them are mostly consistent like in general. But if there's things like I need to practice, like I'll do it over and over. I don't play Wi-Fi definitely as much as I should. Before the mods like started coming in for Wi-Fi, I like hated Wi-Fi. I thought it was horrible, and I thought it was like I people always tell me like, "Oh, you can learn," and I'm just like, "Oh, well, yeah, but I can't really play the game, and if I can't play the game the way I can, like, how am I gonna learn how to deal with these situations if I'm not like in these spots where I usually would be in. But as these mods came in, I've definitely been playing Wi-Fi more. Not as much like a real grinder would. Like I know like Sonic's plays every day, and I have a huge respect for him for that. Now he does play
You
Sonic.
play
So
every day too.
no, but I'm saying like Wi-Fi. Like
True,
he grinds that, and I think it's still different because we played really different characters, and some characters definitely do favor Wi-Fi. I don't think Corrin's really. In some aspects she does, in some aspects she doesn't. So, but as these mods, yeah, I definitely play it more than before, and I play like matchup. I've been looking for matchups in practice more often because I've been like going to majors and playing these matchups I don't usually play, and I'm just like, oh well, I didn't know this, so next time I'll know. So, but yeah, every day like I'll probably just go in training mode, or I go to my locals pretty frequently.
Okay.
There was at some point like in like I think at the beginning of the year, honestly, there was like only 2 or 3 locals in my region, and they're all like pretty small. Like honestly, like they're like 20 to 30 on a good day entrance. But there's been a pop up like of a few more, and I've been able to go to more locals and just staying like I guess like staying like fresh, I guess like but offline wise and getting that experience like with players consistently offline is something that I do pretty often outside of training mode and Wi-Fi. So I would say overall I do put in like the practice like pretty consistently.
Awesome.
So my question is kind of linked to what Ramses asked, in that you mentioned that you're driving upwards of 9 hours to get some of these events. When you get there, how do you maintain your conditioning, like as a person, for the travel there and back?
It's kind of tough because when I go on these events, I definitely don't think I treat myself like the best. Like I try to drink as much water as I can, but it's hard when we're just going out like to fast food and it's like, oh, just like get a Coke. It's like it's also like I don't really get water from like fast food or like places like that. I it's I try to eat as good as I can, but you know we're in a different place. So we just get whatever like we can. I definitely try to get as much sleep as I can, and I just try to like I don't play too much. I just play as much to where I need to where I get the experience that I need. Um, but for the travel wise, I kind of sleep on the road and I let my dad do the work. He's the goat for that.
There you go.
Um,
Shout outs.
yeah, and he definitely wants me to like help him out. It's hard. I'm not like the best person when it comes to like talking about random stuff, but like I try my best. But there's also we do bring some other people on the road, so they talk to him, so they help him out. But yeah, like conditioning wise, like I definitely am not like the best at it. Like I'm not even like the most active person, but I try my best to like stay like in a good condition for bracket because even obviously if I'm not feeling good during bracket, it's not gonna go well. So I try my best.
Yeah, it sounds
Do you
like
have
you're
any-
aware.
Do you
Yeah,
have
yeah.
any mental rituals going into tournaments?
Um, I recently, I don't know if ritual like is the right word, but I recently read a book. I actually have it right here with the Intergame Tennis.
Oh,
great
I read
books.
it really recently, and it's like one of my like the first like mental books I've read, and I definitely related a lot to like the mindset or like that people go into it, like the examples that it showed in the book, and it definitely helped me out a lot. Like the way like your mind like thinks about these situations. I try to like I guess fix it. I don't know if that's the right way to put it, but like I guess adjust it. Yeah. So
yeah.
into like the correct like mindset. To not like get so mad at myself like all the time, even though I know like that didn't go like that wasn't really what I wanted, but it happened either way. Or situations where it's just like not the best for me. Yeah, I've been trying to fix it overall, but I think over time, like I think I'm like pretty good at it overall. But there are just some such absurd things like that is just so hard to like keep your cool. I'm just like, oh my god, like
It's Smash Ultimate.
yeah, it's Smash Ultimate. Like this game is so inconsistent. It's definitely like a challenge, but I kind of just like see something happen. I'm like, okay, can't think about it. Gotta like keep going. Like,
Stay in the moment.
yeah, because you can't really let that things like take over like your thought process. So I definitely am pretty aware of it. I would say so. I kind of just like try to stay cool as much as I can. So.
A famous quote from my good friend Champ, that used to be a TO for 2GGs, he would always tell me, "This is what you signed up for, Charles." And back when I competed in Smash 4 and all that stuff, so
He
yeah,
was spitting.
he was definitely
He was
spitting.
definitely spitting.
And that shit transcends into many other games / activities / hobbies that anyone does. So shout outs to Champ.
Yeah.
SHADIC, is there anyone that you wanted to shout out before we end the episode? Socials, anything like that?
Definitely my dad. He's the reason I go anywhere. So, and he's been supporting me for like over. I've been playing the game. I played Brawl when I was 7. I went to my first tournament when I was 8, and I started going more consistently when I turned 11, and I'm 16 now. So during all that time, he supported me, and I got better and better, and it's basically like kind of all because of him. So definitely him.
Who'd you play in Brawl?
Oh, I didn't play. I didn't have like a main. I played Subspace, and I played whoever I wanted. So it was like, oh, if you don't know, my tag is Shadow and Sonic just combined. So I would say I was a Sonic main, I guess, in Brawl. So
That's
I guess
awesome.
so. Yeah, I came up with it when I was my first tournament, 8 years old. So that's why it
Pretty
is what it is.
creative.
That's a raw tag for an
Pretty
8-year-old.
creative for an 8-year-old, yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. During Smash 4, I thought you were related to Dark Shad, and I was always so confused. I was like, "Why is he in Texas?"
Oh my god, I've heard of that. Yeah, I've definitely heard of him, and I was like, it's not. Yeah, we don't it's not
Yeah.
just that. It's just kind of Shadow and Sonic, and it was like this this fan made like movie somewhat, and that also has Shadik in it. So that's what it is. But yeah, back to like my shoutouts, like my dad, my friends, just supporters, the rest of my family, like just everyone, all my supporters. And if you're going to like the shills, like my Twitter is @Shadik_. My Twitch is Shadik, but I don't stream as much as I used to. I definitely probably get back to that, but I don't know. Streaming is so like, to me, it's
a huge investment. It's hard.
Yes, it's
You gotta
hard.
stream that Wi-Fi practice.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely can do that. Yeah. My YouTube is also @Shadik_, the tag, and that's pretty much it. Just thank everyone for supporting me. So.
All right. Well, thank you for being on the show, SHADIC. That is going to be it for this episode of Coach's Corner. Again, if you did enjoy the content, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And until next time, class dismissed.
Yeah.